just, you grow up in this type of world and knowing that meat is bad. Don't eat meat, don't eat meat, don't eat meat. And for me, it was like, well, soy isn't meat. I hear people all the talk about soy being bad, but it was like, it's crazy. I'm just going to eat a little bit of this. Being that rebellious teenager. And so I did, the soy, I did the dairy. I've never eaten meat in my life. But it messed me up. By the time I got to like 16, my menstrual cycles were horrifying. It was not being able to get out of bed and the heavy bleeding. And I was just like, wait, this is not something I should do anymore. And so I stopped eating it. And when I started taking the herbs, the bleeding and the cramps and all that stuff it was actually worse. And I knew, with my knowledge of working with people, it was going to get worse, but I made it through it. And I never touched the soy ever again.
So just the plain soy threw your cycle off just like that?
Yes.
So what is it about soy that makes it such a
disaster?
It's the processing of it. It's an inorganic substance, and please don't misunderstand when I say organic, because there's a lot of different things that you can say is organic. A pig can be organic. It only means a substance or animal being grown without a certain amount of chemicals in it. But when I say organic or inorganic, I mean not made by nature, and it's just something extremely detrimental. And aside from that, the processing that they do to it, the large amounts of estrogen, it's just extremely bad for the male and female organs. So it definitely damages when it comes to, your menstrual cycle and your reproductive organs, even in males. I remember when, I want to say I was about 21 at this time, and a gentleman came in the office. He was the oldest, I want to say the oldest he was about maybe 22 at the time. And he said that he had ED, erectile dysfunction. And he's like, I changed my diet, I'm eating healthy, I don't eat meat, I don't eat dairy. And I said, well, that's strange that you would go from eating, the bad stuff to the good stuff, and, this is happening. And I said, do you mind me asking you some questions? And so, we talked a little, and he said that his main go-to food was soy. Wow. He was only 22, and he was dealing with ED. And shortly after, he stopped doing the soy, because I did, at the time, introduce him to some alternative meat products that weren't soy-based. And I'm so careful in doing that, because a lot of those processed things are still harmful. Wheat is not good, not natural, it's not good for you. But helping him to really, make that transition. And even with him just getting off of the soy and only doing CMOS. He was only doing CMOS. He would do the Viento every now and then, but it changed. He did not have the issue anymore after, I want to say, about 2 months of him really changing his diet and taking the CMOS. But it definitely affects the reproductive organs for males and females.
Wow. So you've mentioned CMOS a lot, especially from childhood even up to adults. What makes CMOS? Like, why is it so powerful? Why, when I have consultations or when I'm speaking with someone who has knowledge of CMOS, why is it always like the staple builder?
It's giving you all of the minerals that we think we're getting in food. It has 92 of the 102 minerals our bodies are composed of, so it's like a whole food for the body. You're not missing any components, and like I said, even with the quote-unquote organic foods that are out there, before they even grow or put that seed into the ground, it has been compromised. So although we're eating kale and we're eating mushrooms and we're eating quinoa, a lot of the stuff, most of the stuff that we, consume has been compromised. And CMOS is one of the rarest things that you can get that actually has all the minerals to actually support you in what you need in your daily allowance of, real food.
So is there a difference between what they would call vitamins and what we describe as minerals or trace minerals?
Well, I mean, definitely the minerals is something natural. Vitamins are man-made.
Yeah.
A, B, C,
You know,
E, F, K.
right. And it's so funny because, a lot of people say, but the doctor says you need vitamins, or I'm lacking vitamin this or vitamin that. And it's true, but what the doctor gives you is a synthetic form of what your body is lacking. So it's just like when a person is diabetic, they give them insulin, a synthetic form of what your body naturally produces. But what are the foods that actually give you these components to thrive? What are the foods that, help you produce these different vitamins the doctor is saying that you're lacking? It's minerals.
It's minerals.
Right.
Period. So basically they took the word vitamin, they patent it, and they synthesize it, and now it's out for mass consumption.
And there it is.
And minerals, that's something that's too natural. It's like, well, we can't do anything with that.
They play on that.
It's too easy.
They play on that etymology with vital minerals. That's what they're trying to say.
Gotcha.
But my question is for women. Most of them ask me for what can they use and replace their prenatals. I always go to the CMOS. Is that
CMOS, it gives you everything that you need. I will be launching, that I'll be launching a prenatal vitamin pretty soon, but it's still gonna have CMOS in there. CMOS is the number one thing. CMOS is
so
the number
to basically
one
all households, they can keep CMOS in
CMOS is
it.
something you should have in your home no matter what. I don't care what type of diet you have. Not everyone is in agreement with, eating raw or alkaline or electric foods. But something that's actually going to give you something, no matter what type of diet you have, it's CMOS.
Yeah.
So I don't care if you're eating chicken, not that I recommend it, not that I've ever eaten it, not that I will ever promote it, but having the CMOS, it really helps to sustain you. It's just one of the things that I would always say, please have in your home, no matter what.
Yeah.
Now, I usually tell people, I say, look, if meat was becoming natural to this day, I may, let you eat it, but since the fact that I know since 2008, these people have been cloning meat.
Right.
Like, not my words, brother Ashay words, no.
Right.
2008, we signed an amendment that all companies can now start producing clone food. The FDA actually approved that. So when you sit down as a chef and I'm cutting the steak, I see the steak now is glued. So basically they take the garbage of the meat, they pack it together, take pork fat and wrap it around it and actually make it look like a nice fillet.
I saw a documentary on that.
Because I'm not supposed to be able to pull that meat apart, right? Well, I was pulling it apart offshore, and then I had experience where my buddy used to work at Popeyes. Now, he used to bring the meat home to us, the chicken, and we tried to barbecue it one time. It did not want to barbecue, Xave. We had to fry it. It had to have been activated by the fried grease in order to be cooked. Because we threw it off of the balcony, and later came back in the morning, it was still the same color.
Oh, wow.
So I know for sure, as being a chef, seeing that they are bringing in fake meat to you, so they're no longer even eating the real cow no more.
Right. And even if it's not cloned, it's just not something your body is made to digest. It's not something good at all. So, hearing that definitely is scary. Because we understand why children are being born with cancer and children are being born with diabetes and heart issues and all kinds of stuff. We know why they're now being born with it as opposed to eating and then later on in their lives dealing with, all that stuff. But, it's scary. It's scary, and that's why I always tell people, we live in this world. These are the foods that we're giving. Support yourself. At least clean it out. Do the CMOS. Keep the CMOS in your home because it's so vital.
No, we've been up since it's 8:30 here in Atlanta, but we've been up since 3 a.m. in Louisiana, and I've only been on CMOS today.
Wow.
I felt like a little going into this interview hungry, but I'm not dying,
Right.
and I'm still very bubbly, very energetic. It's warm, which would be the only thing.
I just come off a 7-day CMOS fast.
I wanted to ask you about that, but I'm like, I figured he could figure it down for himself.
And when I tell you, even the fruit that I ate gave me some type of reaction
Most
after the 7 days.
Yeah.
Most
And I was
definitely.
like, look at that. The CMOS had me running circles, and these were people eating almost 4 times a day, snacking in between, and they looking at me crazy when I'm like, dude, you need to try it. It was right in that time between the Alton Sterling, so I didn't get emotionally fixed on the TV like everybody else did.
Right.
I stood back and looked. I said, dude, the government consensus just came out, and 600,000 people died of disease ailments. 2,000 died from gunshots. And I'm like, why are we so focused on what the TV tells us?
Right.
It's easy to be hypnotized like we do in the movies.
Right.
Don't we get the food first?
Yeah.
Then we sit down and we sit there and we believe anything.
You're in a trance.
Yeah, it's a lot to the trance.
Yes.
So my question is, what's the difference, someone told me to ask you this, between your recommended list and the rest of the recommended lists that are out there?
Well, for
Is it
me,
a significant difference?
I just go by the original format. This is something that the entire Ocean Healing family has used, and so it's always worked. We've still been able to heal and help people. So it's really just the original format. It's very different from that new nutritional guide that my father has now. So that would be the difference.
Well, I've even seen a lady in Europe have a list, and it was kind of slightly different. Everybody likes to play on it, but for me, myself, I know as long as we go into that grocery store, like you said earlier, we find a lady, and we need to get this from nature. Yes. So, like you said, I stick to the four horsemen that you told me about.
Yes.
Because that's perfect. It doesn't allow people, I can't eat this. At least they'll still have something on the table to transition.
Because, transition, that's the word. It's unrealistic for a person to just go from eating, hot dogs and hamburgers right into, eating something I personally use. Not saying that I recommend outside of that list, but how to properly transition is to eliminate, meat, dairy, and soy. Stay away from those things. Those are the most detrimental things that you can consume. No, I do not recommend cabbage. No, I do not recommend broccoli. I don't recommend cauliflower. But if you happen to eat these things in your transition, you've made such great strides.
Right.
You've gone from hot dogs and hamburgers to eating cabbage. As you go into it, of course, you're going to do your own research. You're going to, educate yourself and fine tune that. So no, we don't want you to eat cabbage and broccoli. It has absolutely no, minerals or anything to support you.
Right.
But if that's what you're using to transition, then honestly, I congratulate you more than anything, because you've made that step, and that's the first thing you have to do in healing.
Self-healing.
Great. I think she actually just covered my last question. But this is my number 4 question. What made you want to start your own company?
Well, a few different reasons. Even back when I was making the compounds for my father, I've always wanted to have a children's line. And so that's something I was able to introduce along with a protein shake, of course, plant-based protein shake. And in addition to that, when I left my father's office not too long ago, a couple years ago, there were quite a few people, I kind of want everything changed, and I don't want to say that, maybe the herbs that he's making now isn't good, but some people are just accustomed to what they're accustomed to. You can't change that. So quite a few people reached out, and so I began production, and I started, making it more and more, and then other people told other people, and some people found me on Facebook, and that's how it really got started. So.
Okay, so like your father, he kind of stepped back from the LA office and he's more in Honduras, so.
He is more in Honduras. He has a gentleman, now producing his compounds in Los Angeles, but he's mainly in Honduras.
Okay.
I want to ask a question. I'm glad you said that. I've seen different people go to Usha Village and they will talk about the different herbs you get there. What's the difference between the ones that he have in Honduras and the one that's in LA?
That's not something I could really elaborate on.
Okay.
I'm not sure, what the difference would be. I know back when I was producing the compounds for his office, we used a lot of the herbs from Honduras.
Oh, okay,
So,
okay.
I mean, of
I
course,
see.
when you get it, when you're in Honduras, you're in that environment, they pick everything
That's
fresh.
what I was thinking.
And they make it right then and there. Of course, it's going to be better because it's so fresh. But, even with that, the herbs that we got that were in Honduras, we definitely used in the compounds. I don't know if that's something that he still does. I couldn't imagine him not doing that anymore. But, that was, the compounds definitely have those herbs from Honduras.